Hi, I'm Mike Messier, and welcome to Messier Mantra. On this episode, we have a very special guest. He's Fred Sullivan, actor, director, and in my life, my first acting coach. Fred Sullivan.
Hi, Mike.
How you doing?
I'm great.
I mentioned that because you were my first acting teacher, I should say, because it was a group class at Perishable Theater, and this is going back a couple of years. And you were tough, and I liked it.
I was tough.
Yeah, because
some people tell me that. I can't imagine because I'm such a sweetheart.
You're a sweetheart. But in the class, what I liked about your class was are you going to take this seriously or not? And you didn't have mercy on people who were flippy-floppy. Yeah. Tell me about your acting teacher process, how you approach a class, with new actors especially.
Sure. I started teaching when I was 18, and I started teaching kids that were like 4 years younger than me. So several of my students from that period have gone on to really fun, great careers on television and the movies. And so it's so funny for me because I'm not that much older than them.
Right.
But that was quite a while ago. So I've been teaching for about 30 years, you know, and my process has changed and the way I approach it has changed, but it's also like every class is different.
Right.
And right now I teach at several places. I teach a class at the GAM Theater in Pawtucket on Monday night, and that's kind of my bedrock class, but that changes. That can be, I don't do intro there anymore. I do the advanced classes. So right now, last night I taught, I teach an advanced scene study class. I teach a Shakespeare class. I teach a comedy scene study class.
Yes.
And I teach just a normal scene study class. So there's all different, but the comedy and the Shakespeare are kind of specialty classes. I take it so seriously my whole life.
Yeah.
That's how I take it so seriously. I have fun. So I expect people to really do the work.
Right.
And you know, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. People all of a sudden go, you know, I thought it was going to be like Drew Carey and we were going to, improv and make up things. Or I want to do a scene from Cats because I like it. You know, that's not really what I do.
Right.
We do text-based work. We don't do improv. In my class, there are many, many other classes that are offered locally. Trinity has a great improv class with Monroe Hampman and some other people. Casey Seymour Kim is a local improv person. But I usually do text-based scene study classes. We start sometimes with a monologue, but we always get into scene work, partner work. I usually pick Pulitzer Prize winning material material that has been, you know, I shake myself up. I don't use the same material that I started with when 25 years ago. I love new plays.
Right.
But you know, you usually want to go for a scene that has equal parts, that are demanding, that have certain rhythms, that have drama and comedy both in them. You know, it's I don't want anybody to be afraid of ever taking an acting class because as vulnerable as you have to be and as brave as you have to be, it's always safe. It's always safe.
I always enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, it is fun.
I think it was a thing where, that expression, iron sharpens iron type of thing. Like people who came in there and were ready to play ball, we're going to play ball.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
don't
that was
do
great.
anything unless you really want to do it well, and to get better at it and to learn something. I mean, that's what life's all about. So I've had people come up to me and say, I taught school, I was a lawyer, I was this, I was that. I took this class and a door opened in me.
Right.
You know, suddenly I empathized more with other people. I got in touch with the way I express myself better.
Yes.
I mean, those classes are great
for
that sort of thing. There's nothing like this art form. And, spending every Monday night of my, adult life getting under the hood and tinkering with that, with the people from all walks of life, has changed me and made me look at it differently. I mean, I've been a professional actor for 30 years, but the teaching of it makes me look at it differently.
That's great, because as a director and as an actor yourself, and we're going to talk all about this stuff, is that you are learning as you're teaching, because you're learning about the human element.
Yeah. There are actors who say, I've mastered this, or I've spent my life doing it, so I know everything there is to know. And then there are heroes like, Lord Laurence Olivier, who said, I never stop learning.
Yeah.
And every play teaches me something new,
Right.
and every character has a different facet of the human condition, or about how I understand myself or other people, or look at my parents differently. Or so I kind of believe in that. Never stop learning.
There was a young lady in the class that I took with you named Rachel Walsh. Do you remember her?
I do.
She's gone on to some nice things.
She and I are both directors at the GAM Theater.
Yes.
And she directs one a year, and I direct one a year. Sometimes I direct two a year. She is amazing.
Yes.
She is award-winning and a serious artist. Just wrote a beautiful essay about engaging the community through theater and how to market it in this day and age. For the Theater Communications Group, and I respect her very much.
Yeah, and I mentioned that because it was a special time in my life.
Yeah.
You know, because I was.
It's quite a while ago now.
Yeah, no, we're ageless on this show, Fred. We're ageless. We're
Yes.
ageless actors.
Cut me in half and count the rings. Yeah.
But I want to talk about your career now because how did you get involved in acting yourself?
Mm-hmm. My parents, when I was born, the year I was born, bought a summer house, a little cottage in Cape Cod, in Dennisport.
Yes.
There was a children's theater that the people from the Wheelock College started about 6 blocks up from my house on the Harwich Dennisport line. It's called the Harwich Junior Theater. My neighbor was my age, was 2 years older than me, and said, I went to a play up there, and it was, The Reluctant Dragon and Peter Pan and The Wind in the Willows, and it's live theater. You should go, you'll love it. So
Yes.
I went up and I saw The Reluctant Dragon and Peter Pan and Wind of the Willows. It rocked my world.
Yeah.
I had never seen anything like it. I still remember the images from those plays being 6 years old, and this is in the late 60s. And I just thought it was magic.
Yeah.
I didn't know how they did any of it. I wanted to believe that, if you put paper mache noses on people and, a costume of scales, that they are a dragon. I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. So my neighbor was taking a class up there, and he wanted to be an actor. He turned out to be a radio guy when he grew up. And I didn't want to take the acting class. I was very young. I was like 7.
Yeah.
And so I took the technical workshop class.
Okay.
And I banged in nails, and I learned how to make a teaser and a tormentor and to put glue on things.
Wow, at age 7.
And and then at age 8, the following summer,
Yeah.
I took my first acting class.
Wow.
And it was with Betty Bope, who founded the theater. She's got a great name. She's deceased, but she was my first teacher. She was a teacher at Wheelock. She believed in education and children and theater.
Right.
And she started this place that is still operational, that is still changing lives on Cape Cod, from the age of, say, 7 until 29.
Yeah.
I spent every summer of my life at the Howard Junior Theater on Cape Cod. That gave me the courage I did 4 plays a year. I would either stage manager or I would play the lead. By the time I was 18, I was directing there.
Nice.
I started designing there. I just learned how to do everything.
Yeah.
So by the time I was 14 and I was in high school, the guy who was running the drama department said, have you ever been in plays? And I was like, I've been in 25 plays.
Right.
And he was like, oh, I need you.
Yeah.
So I did everything in high school. By the time I was done in high school, we used to enter those New England drama festivals.
Right.
And I won the top actor award
Nice.
my senior year. So my dad said to me, you're pretty good at this. Maybe you should do this.
Yes.
Maybe you should do this seriously. They wanted me to go to a liberal arts college so I would get a broader education than just go to a specialty school for acting, because nobody knows how that's going to work out.
Sure.
But I wanted to go to New York. I went to Long Island. I went to Hofstra University because I walked in and they had the Shakespeare's Globe up in the 5th largest auditorium in New York State. So it means it's like the size of a Broadway house.
Wow.
And they build the Globe every year for a Shakespeare festival in Hempstead, Long Island. And I walked in with my father and I saw the Globe and I went, I'm going to this college. I had wonderful professors trained at Yale and really articulate and passionate about it. I got better and better. And Uta Hagen came to Hofstra and had a master class with us. I think it was my junior year. No, it was 1980.
Just for the people that don't know, Uta Hagen, I believe she wrote.
Uta Hagen wrote a book called Respect for Acting.
Correct.
And she wrote a book after that, which I have a signed copy of because she means the world to me. She was really great acting teacher. Uta is a goddess.
Yes.
And she was the first. She was the first. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Martha.
Right.
You know, she originated a lot of great American roles, and she was a serious New York acting teacher when acting teachers were acting teachers. So she came to our college, and she said something incredible. She said, you know, everybody has these heroes in England and, you know, want to be like this and want to be like that. We have to embrace being an American. You have to find Americans that are making their life exactly the way you want to make your life and ask them a lot of questions.
Right.
Well, I saw actors at the Trinity Repertory Company in 1980 do Waiting for Godot, which was my favorite play when I was a teenager. And I saw Dick Jenkins, and I saw George Martin, and I saw Richard Cavanaugh.
Yes.
And these people were titans.
Right.
Two of them have left us. The other one remains a titan.
Richard Jenkins.
Yes. He has been up for an Academy Award, and he's in every movie ever made, and he's always excellent.
I got to be in a scene with him. I felt very good about
great.
that. Yeah.
He's great. And he just did this Olive Kitteridge on HBO.
That's
that
the
is
piece I had a little...
mind-blowingly
Yeah, I got
excellent.
to see him in work. And
he's
all
great.
that. Yeah.
And actually, Uta Hagen said, find somebody, I think Dick is 15 years older than me or 13 years older than me. She said, find somebody 10 to 20 years older than you and ask a lot of questions. And it wasn't just Dick that impressed me so much at that theater, at Trinity Rep. It was the whole kit and caboodle.
Right.
Adrian's front line was amazing. Bill Domkeller and Peter Garrity and Danny Von Bargen. And
Adrian Hall.
Adrian Hall founded the Trinity Repertory Company 51 years ago.
Yes.
I went to that school in 1983, so 32 years ago, to study the Trinity Rep Conservatory, it was called then. Now it's the MFA program at Brown.
Yes.
But the Trinity Rep Conservatory rocked my world because I got to see all of the actors in the company at Trinity work on great plays. I had always wanted to be a regional theater actor because I grew up in a children's theater. And by the time I was in my 20s and we all had BFAs in theater, we were working together to make The Glass Menagerie and to make Arms and the Man by Shaw and Twelfth Night and Waiting for Godot and Endgame and various and sundry kind of more adult pieces. And we would cast ourselves in roles that we would never get cast at professionally because we were too young.
Yes.
But ironically, most of those parts I've played again as a professional and know exactly how to do it because I did it when I was a kid. So never, ever poo-poo when young people have appetites because that's how they get ready to do it when they're at the appropriate age.
Yes.
But we started kind of an offshoot theater there in the summer while I was working more and more with Trinity. So I was being trained by Trinity, but Adrian would put me in the main stage shows. And then when I was 24 years old, he said, we would like you to join the company. We'll give you a fellowship. You'll do, back in those days, you did 5 or 6 plays a year. You were lucky to have Thanksgiving and Christmas off,
Right.
And we just did play after play, and Dick Jenkins directed me in many of those, and I learned a lot by watching him. And but the whole lineup they were great. They were
hitters.
just really wonderful actors. And I learned a lot from them. Brian McElhenney was my teacher.
Oh, yes.
And then since we've become very good friends and have been on stage together countless times.
Right.
So there are a lot of people that I just learned a lot from.
Yes.
And, still do and still learn a lot from. I've done, they made me a company member.
Yes.
Resident actor. And I have done about 4 plays a year for 30 years.
Wow.
So I've done 115 plays at Trinity. Right now I'm just finishing A Flea in Her Ear. I played 2 parts. That's built into it. The guy, the bourgeois guy, the insurance broker, looks exactly like the drunken bellhop at the hotel.
Right.
So it's all about mistaken identity. And it's really fun to do. While I was doing that play,
Yes.
I was directing The House of Blue Leaves at the GAM with a really wonderful cast of people that I adore. I mean, it's like I want to party with you. It's like every time I direct a play, I want you guys in the room.
Right.
So I did this amazing, I had this amazing cast for The House of Blue Leaves. It all was kismet because A Flea in Her Ear, which I was acting in, influenced the writing of The House of Blue Leaves because John Guare had written Act 1, didn't know what to do with Act 2, and saw Laurence Olivier in Flea in Her Ear in England and went, oh, maybe if I take Dance of Death and Flea in Her Ear and kind of put them together, I'll have House of Blue Leaves. So it's just funny that Flea in Her Ear and House of Blue Leaves was happening in my life at the same time, and they're actually really connected in a very basic, creative way.
Being inspired by Laurence Olivier, that's nothing.
Well, and who wouldn't be?
Yeah.
He once, you talk about mantra. When I was a kid, he was on 60 Minutes, and he said something I never got over. He said, use your weaknesses, aspire to your strengths. And I was blown away at 17 listening to this guy who had kind of played every great role in the world, from Hamlet to Is It Safe? And amazing. It rocked my world.
Nice. I want to ask you a question, which the Pat question would be, what's your favorite role? What's your least favorite? Blah, blah. But let's tweak this. Was there a moment, or is there a moment currently even, in your career that's the most challenging?
My life kind of changed. The way I worked, I was in children's theater, and then I did high school theater and college theater, and then I was a resident acting company member in my 20s.
Yes.
The year that I lost my mom was the year that Oscar Eustis came in and took over as artistic director. And his second season, he cast me as Edmund Tyrone in Long Day's Journey into Night. And Joe Pitt in Angels in America.
Wow.
And I was 33 years old, the year Christ and Bruce Lee died. And John Belushi died. So it's like the year people's lives change. I was 33, and I was working on the greatest American plays ever written.
Right.
And the most personal material for me. I was Irish Catholic, grew up in New England and Boston.
Yes.
And, Long Day's Journey into Night is a great family play, probably the greatest family play.
Yes.
And you had to dig down deep. Plus, it was the year my mom passed.
Yeah, right.
Both sons there at 33 years old, both Edmund Tyrone and Joe Pitt have scenes with their mothers, about the most personal things in the history of the world. So I was just like, I started to dig around in a different toolbox.
Right.
I started to train kind of myself how to be incredibly exposed and truthful in a way that I hadn't been asked to.
Right.
You get sometimes hired because you're entertaining, or because you have a skill set, or because you can hit a high C, or juggle, or ride a unicycle, or have a French accent.
Sure.
This was about digging around in your soul, and supporting it technically by keeping it moving forward and making it engaging and surprising, but so personal.
Oh yeah.
Incredibly, deeply bone marrow personal, and that made the acting different for me, and I was rebooted.
Wow.
I loved it 400 times more than I ever thought I would.
After all that experience already as a teenager and a young.
Yeah, I mean, I had been Uta Hagen says it takes 20 years to make a great actor.
Right.
It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have Haley Joel Osment. You can have a kid who is wonderful.
Yeah. Right.
No, I mean, really can. Whose heart is connected to the vocal cords, whose eyes register soul, stuff that you can't teach. But in order to have somebody with a full toolbox who you can throw any piece of material at, and they know how to make it personal, how to make it engaging, how to make it exciting, how to make it watchable.
Right.
That takes about 20 years.
Wow. That's great, because we talk about, for those, most people would be familiar, but some might not, Angels of America, and kind of an ensemble piece about the AIDS epidemic.
Right.
And
it's 5 hours long. It's in two nights.
And I think that the theater separated into two parts. So
yes.
Okay.
So you could, when we did it, there were kind of college groups and subscribers that would come and see the first part in the afternoon, go have dinner, come and see the evening show, the second half. Sprawling, amazing, life-changing, every award in the world. He's great.
Right.
Tony Kushner wrote it. He wrote the movie for the screenplay for Lincoln.
Yeah.
And you just sit there and go, "There's a genius hand at work here. There is a first-class mind."
And in Angels America, the playbook, when you open it up, it has special thanks to Oscar Eustis, right, in the actual playbook.
And he directed this. So he had commissioned Tony when he was running the Eureka Theater on the West Coast. He commissioned, because they had worked on a play called A Bright Room Called Day together. And he fell in love with Tony's mind, and they were very good friends. They're lifelong friends.
Right.
And he had directed the first ever, and decided, because he was running our company, that he would bring Angels to Providence.
Yes.
And it was funny, I met Tony when Oscar was here directing Julius Caesar in '90.
Yeah.
And Oscar said, "Oh, he's writing a play right now that you and Brian would be great in."
Yes.
And we never thought we'd be in it.
Right.
And we're like, "Oh, people write a play all the time." We didn't know it was going to be the greatest play of that decade.
Yeah. Wow.
Or that century, I don't know. But amazing stuff.
What do you say, we're here in Seacon, but this show is going to be on Vimeo and shared, with as many people as want to watch it. And what do you say to young people, or even older people, that want to get involved in the arts? Or even just, a lot of people that I meet, as an acting coach now myself, they're at a point in their lives where they're unsatisfied. And they haven't dipped into that deep end of the pool or jumped in the ocean, whatever metaphor you want to use, as to their full application of life. Mm-hmm. And it's sad, and how do people kick
I can say
themselves?
this. I can say some people get sad because they look at their lives in a kind of a famous way.
Okay.
Like, I'm not far enough along. I don't have famous friends. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not on television. People don't know who I am. I'm not successful.
Yeah.
I've never looked at life that way. So I have dedicated my life to live theater and to the regional theater. And I would say to people who feel that they would like to be more involved in the arts, to do it.
Yeah.
Because any time that you spend pursuing the arts is opening up the door and getting in touch with the most personal part of you and making you connect with other people in a way that is sublime and important and valuable. And no time spent in a classroom, in a studio, rehearsing a play you wrote in your basement with your family and your friends. I don't care what you're doing. Any of that time is not a waste of time.
Right.
It could not possibly be a waste of time because of the human quotient and the humanness of it.
And
I would say do it. I would say
great.
please have the arts in your life. We talk about the arts in the schools and it gets political, and I don't really understand that because it just makes us better humans.
Yeah. And it's great because when I took your class, I was coming off this independent, no budget movie that me and my friend had produced, and I was like, I doing that movie, I said, I want to act.
Yeah.
And I looked up just the local scene. I was familiar with AS 220 on Empire Street in Providence, next to the Perishable Theater. And
Right, 95 Empire now.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like,
the good thing about you
is
that you say, I want to do something, and then you find people, like Uta Hagen said, find somebody more experienced to you and ask a lot of questions.
Right.
That's how we communicate. That's how we pass it on. That's how people, everybody fakes it till they make it. Everybody kind of says, okay, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. We talk about your films or Tommy DiNucci's films. They start being kind of Super 8 zombie movies, and suddenly they turn into major, films and forces in our community that have a much larger reach and an importance.
I'm glad you mentioned our buddy Tommy DiNucci, because you are in Almost Mercy.
I am.
And I got to see it, a rough cut, and I was like, oh, there's Fred, look out. And you're playing, tell me about your role in Almost Mercy.
Yeah, well, Tom DiNucci, who has been a guest on your show, is a dear friend of mine. He also took my class in 2007, so 8 years ago. He took 4 classes, I think, and he was working on David Mamet, and he was working on Sam Shepard. He was working on a lot of great writing. But he had a charm and a presence and a specificity and kind of a goofy humor. He's sexy, he charms women, men, and cats. He's a very charming guy, and he's a really good presence. And he has an interesting life view, you know.
Yeah.
So he was my student, and I liked him a lot, and I answered his questions, and we got to be friendly. But I didn't hear he would come to the plays I directed,
Right.
and he would come see me act, you know, and we'd talk. But we were just friendly, and he was a student of mine. And then one day, out of the blue, he got in touch with me and said, "I'm playing a big part in a movie, and this is, you know, my first kind of big part in a movie." He was playing Michael Madsen's son in a horror movie called Infected.
Yes.
And he called me up and he said, "Can I hire you to be my personal acting coach?" And we met like twice a week for, you know, like 6 weeks. I mean, we really worked hard. We went every line through the script. And of course, with that script, every line changed once they started filming. But we talked about the toolbox. We talked about personalization. We talked about substitution. We talked about line delivery. We talked about clarity. We talked about trying to, you know, find yourself in the role. We talked and talked and talked and told each other very funny stories and bonded. But, you know, we really worked hard.
Yeah.
And he had fun. I had fun. We would do it again in a minute. While that was going on, they had made a movie called Incubus.
Yes, with Robert Englund.
Yes. A demon movie.
Right.
Filmed in the old police station in Cranston.
Yep.
And Joey Fatone was in that movie. And they decided it was too short. It was like, I don't know, 57 minutes.
Right.
I don't know what it was. 62 minutes, and they wanted it to be 70 minutes or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They hired me to play Joey Fatone's psychiatrist, and I'm the beginning, the middle, and the end of the movie.
Yeah,
and,
I saw it. That's great.
So, we filmed all one night. We filmed that one night. Like, I got there at like 6 o'clock. I actually had to cancel my class that Monday.
Wow.
It was a Monday because I was in a play Tuesday through Sunday. Monday night, get there at 6 o'clock, get out at 6 a.m.
Wow.
You know what I mean? We just filmed and filmed and filmed. There was nothing written down.
Yeah.
There was
Right.
The director was feeding us ideas on what to improv and what to talk about, you know. And we had a ball. I mean, I really liked Joey. I trusted him. I liked working with him. He liked me. Tommy was there, and it was great. It was great. We just, we worked all night. So the next thing I think he called me to do out of the blue was a one-line thing in a comedy called A Bet's a Bet.
Bet's a Bet, Jonathon Silverman directed.
Yeah. A lot of great people around on that set. I spent one whole day there. It took place in a gay bar. I think I played like gay man number 8 or something.
Right.
You know, I had one line.
Yeah.
And they was co-directed, Jonathon Silverman, who I respect and has
his wife,
credits
yeah.
out there. And she said, everybody else had a boa and lipstick and was flamboyant. I had like a bowling shirt and a cap on it. She said, "You're not gay enough." And anyway, long story short, they cut my one line from that movie, but you see me in the background. And I had a really fun day. The next thing that happened was he called me up. He said, "I have a great role for you. I can't think of anybody else for it. Can you do it?" I couldn't.
Yeah.
Tony Todd ended up playing it.
Wow.
I love Tony Todd. He went to the school, Trinity Rep.
Yeah.
Friends with all of my friends. Great. So I didn't need to do it.
Oh, Fred, we are going to have you on another show because we're running out of time.
Okay.
But we want to talk about Almost Mercy, and the career of Fred Sullivan is just stacked with stories. We're going to have you on again on the Messier Mantra. Thank you, Fred Sullivan. Thank you for watching this episode of Messier Mantra with Fred Sullivan, and we'll see you next time right here on Messier Mantra.